Hello and welcome to the Economic Times Learning and Development Summit 2021, wherein top industry leaders share their thoughts on the changing culture and scenario of learning and development in today's time. In this special episode, we bring you exclusive event highlights. First up, we have an opening address on restructuring learning stratagems for the new normal by Geeta Singh, Director People Development at Google.
I've been in the learning and development field for 20 plus years, and never before have I seen an event force us to think so radically about the role of learning and development like the pandemic has. Once we realized that remote work has become a way of life, we focused on ensuring that our employees, or Googlers as we call them, who are located in various countries across the region, continue to learn, grow, and develop their skills in this new working environment. For Google, onboarding is a pivotal moment in our development journey. Our onboarding program is the cornerstone of Google's culture. And at the start of the pandemic, we had to figure out how to communicate with new hires about our culture, about our values, and about our company. So we redesigned our onboarding program in just 6 months. From there, our team fiercely prioritized and made critical decisions on what, when, and how we share content with tens and thousands of Nooglers who have onboarded remotely since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. At the start of the pandemic, we recognized that our managers were key to managing the transition their teams were going through. Therefore, we invested in providing our managers with the resources they needed to lead their teams. We had managers virtually learning from each other, learning in the moment through short videos that provided advice, or through a panel of managers who addressed the most frequently asked questions pertaining to managing remote teams. At Google, during our pandemic office prep operations, we offered Googler to Googler classes, or G2G for short, which is our peer-to-peer learning program where Googlers teach each other a skill or share a knowledge about a topic that they are passionate about. These learning opportunities include a range of topics from Python coding to parenting to mindfulness, and it's been a great way to meet new Googlers with shared interests. I hope that some of these examples and tips inspire you as L&D professionals.
This double disruption that we're witnessing today, caused both by the pandemic as well as digital transformation, one thing is certain, that a traditional approach to developing talent is no longer enough for organizations to prepare for the future of work. Let me share 3 key areas that have seen a massive shift, which are resulting in learning and development emerging as an important growth lever, both for businesses and professionals. Jobs, skills, and the role of L&D professionals as well as the tools they use. Jobs are changing and the skills needed to succeed continue to evolve. On an average, skills for the same job have changed by about 29% from 2015 to 2021. At this pace, we expect professionals' skills to have changed by as much as 48% by 2025. Now let's have a look at the role of L&D professionals and how it has evolved. So pre-pandemic, their focus was largely on getting people to use learning solutions, to now where they bear the monumental responsibility of making learning more scalable, more cost-effective, more engaging, personalized, as well as completely virtual. And in addition to this, they are also driving the diversity and inclusion agenda. They are facilitating internal mobility and not just solving for skill gaps of today, but playing a much more forward-looking approach and role that identifies the skill needs of the future. And since we have seen the role of L&D professionals evolving so much, we've also seen that the tools that they use also see a massive shift from very simple training management softwares used in the past to highly evolved learning experience platforms like the LinkedIn Learning Hub, which are not just content aggregation portals, but intelligent recommendation engines which personalize the user experience as well as give rich insights to the L&D professionals to plan better for the future. So therefore, I'd say that L&D impacts the entire talent lifecycle from recruitment and onboarding to retention and growth. And it is evident that talent is in the driver's seat today.
Welcome back. Moving on, we bring you a power-packed panel discussion on what learners want.
In our organizations, what are some of the key trends which we are seeing, and especially from the perspective of learners, not just general L&D trends, but what do we see learners demanding? And Satyajit, I thought maybe we could start off with you.
One definite trend we are seeing in the company is a freedom to choose as to what they learn, how they learn, when they learn. Right. Gone are the days where we used to have managers deciding for employees as to what they learn. Because when we used to have this model in Crumpton about 3 to 4 years back, when all training program nominations, be it for online, be it physical training, used to come from the managers. And one frequent feedback we thought came up is, how does my manager decide what is good for me? We decided people, first example, would take some efforts to understand the learning needs of our employees from the employees themselves.
Sure.
And that gave a very, very different perspective as to what the managers think they should learn and what the employees want to learn. As an adult, they have a right, and they think they have a right to decide what is good for me and how do I want to learn it, when do I want to learn it. So that is one of the biggest trend shift we are seeing in the company, and when I talk to my colleagues in the industry, that is also pretty much evident there as well.
Thank you, Satyajit. Rituraj, what about you?
Obviously, learner wants today more application learning than ever before. So solve my problems, solve my hands-on issues, don't give me concepts, don't give me gyan, don't give me funda. Tell me, how do I tackle this particular issue on the floor for me? That's what learner wants today.
Samir, you represent LinkedIn, and obviously now you would have a macro view on some of the broad trends you see sweeping across industries. So what's your view?
The three key trends that we're seeing. The first is that, learners are becoming much more intentional about their learning. So there is proactive demand which is coming in. If you just look at what happened 2 years ago, learning was always a push. And now, as we've heard all the other panelists also speak, it's much more of a pull, right? And what that also means is that learning needs to be in the flow of work and the flow of everything else, right? And the third thing is that, when you think about learning, while we learn from people, we also learn with people. So what we're increasingly seeing is a surge in community-based learning. So today, online learning or digital learning is also happening in a way where learners can interact amongst each other and with the instructors as well. So broadly speaking, those three trends and learner empowerment is really my key takeaway based on what all the panelists also say.
In our next session, we have a fireside chat on skilling at scale.
Harpreet, could you please share with us some of your best practices when it comes to driving levels of learning experience with regards to an upskilling at scale?
To start with, I think we have accepted that the learner of today, in our case, 50-60% of them are millennials, are a lot more empowered than what they used to be. And with a very, killing our ego, we have accepted that content will not be created only by us. We will have to let people create and co-create learning content along with us. We have also completely transitioned. So we did 7 lakh plus hours of learning in the last 1 year. And all of it was virtual. We've done a lot of capability building initiatives for our internal facilitators. Second is we have invested proactively as an organization on tools to enhance engagement, which could be tools like Kahoot, Mentimeter, Pedalet, better presentation style. So a lot of investment has gone into which tools do suit us better or not. We've used a lot of breakout rooms, caselets. So the whole program design actually is now changed from a lot of one-to-many to a group discussion kind of a thing that is happening today.
How Cipla tracking learning outcome of these different investments being made? Are there some leading lagging metrics inside?
There are different metrics that we use. So for new joiners, ROI is measured in terms of the turnaround time for their onboarding process. How quickly are they trained on processes? So number of queries that come around processes, has that gone down or not? How quickly do they start winning our business incentive programs? So that means how quickly are they really market ready? We are doing a lot of cohort-based learning. And I must mention there's a program that I'm also doing on communication skills with Vani. Again, any program that we are doing, we are identifying the right cohort for the right program. And I think the returns are a lot stronger because of that.
Up next, we have a standalone session by Ishita Bandopadhyay of Aeon's Assessment Solutions on developing managers while transforming business.
As L&D professionals, we always think there is so much for us to do. Given the times that we are in, there is so much for us to focus on, so many different segments in the talent to focus on at any point of time. Now, who is a first-time manager? The first-time manager is this individual contributor who has been a star performer, who has been absolutely amazing in delivering on their accountabilities when the accountability was their own. And all of a sudden, they have been elevated to become a manager. They are now entrusted with managing their own peers in some ways, in some cases. So there is a huge turmoil inside them also when they are trying to build that credibility. Now, for organizations, the changes can be broadly classified into two categories of external and internal. We all know that. And keeping this in mind, what we definitely understand is for the first-time managers, they are no longer just supervisors here. They are the change ambassadors and change enablers. So between the management and the front line, it is this cadre who is taking the responsibility of translating the strategy into actual work on the ground. So what Aeon has done is crafted out what we call the manager grow model to enable these potential first-time managers to groom them up to become an accountable and credible first-time managers. So we start off with a push for the managers where we simulate a managerial environment for these individual contributors who are the potential first-time managers. Following through on that, what we have done is we have built in modules of self-awareness, self-care, and ensured that there is a progressive development journey for this potential manager as they go through it. What we have over here are some of the benefits and various ways in which you can apply this kind of a program for your managers to grow them effectively.
Workplace learning has been going through an upheaval in the last couple of years. There are massive shifts taking place. I'd like to talk about three key trends in that. The first is that there is an increased demand for better learning experience and a lot more focus on the learning outcome. Business stakeholders are becoming extremely mindful of the ROI that any learning investment delivers. The second important thing which is emerging is a demand for asynchronous supervision. While at one end it is challenging to get coaches and trainers all under the same roof at the same time, on the other hand, a simply digitized learning solution does not produce the right learning outcome. The third thing is that learning delivery has to move mobile first so that people could learn in bite-sized pieces in the flow of their work. So these are the three key trends that would go ahead and shape the industry in the coming years.
Welcome back. Our next session focuses on the hybrid workforce agenda with Goki Muthusamy, Head People, Asia Pacific, Visa, taking center stage.
Many companies strives to be one that employees can come into work feeling like they can do their best work, achieve their career goals, and contribute to the company's success while leading fulfilling personal lives. We also want and aspire to be a company that fosters an inclusive culture that supports flexible work in a way that ensures both positive employee and company outcomes. Our hybrid agenda, therefore, allows majority of our employees to split time between their home and office. And this is something we're testing and learning. So our hybrid work agenda is really grounded in collaboration, connection, and community. Many of our companies had to introduce new content focused on productivity, resilience, time management, mental health, and well-being in the span of weeks, and then had to roll it out to hundreds, if not thousands of employees when COVID hit. As we think about this virtual way of learning, I'm also finding that social learning is here to stay. Learning together in a virtual environment is on the rise. It helps learning become more sticky and it drives up learner engagement. Trend number 2, learning must help employees with finding their purpose. And finally, I think the purpose-led learning actually helps employees overcome obstacles and setbacks much more in a much more sophisticated way. So with that, I wish you all a very happy rest of the conference, and thank you for listening in on my segment.
Next up, we bring you a partner session on the future of work and intelligent ways of building the right skills at scale by Ruchi Anand, Senior Director for Talent and Learning Solutions at LinkedIn India.
The global talent market has never changed this much, this quickly. Companies are starting to rethink culture, expectations, and policies to reflect what looks like a permanent shift to a hybrid work model. And at the same time, employees are rethinking the work they do and are looking for work that aligns with their values and needs. At LinkedIn, we are calling this moment of change the Great Reshuffle. And in the midst of this change, we all have an opportunity to rewrite our playbooks when it comes to hiring, retaining, and engaging our talent, to focus on what our employees want, which is flexibility, compassion, and trust. Findings from our survey tell us that L&D budgets are being spent very differently than they were in the past, because L&D professionals are looking at making learning more scalable, cost-effective, and completely virtual. At the same time, there is a need to figure the best ways to optimize budgets to provide personalized skill development at scale. In fact, even of the people that we will be hiring today, as per Gartner, only 16% have the skills required to do the jobs of tomorrow. So naturally, reskilling existing employees and evolving internal jobs is front and center. So through LinkedIn data, we are seeing a sizable rise in internal mobility, where L&D is playing a critical role in building these efforts. I'd like to say that as leaders, we must acknowledge that how a people-centric strategy is essential in creating more meaningful employee experience that encourages each individual to bring their best self to work. In addition to the 3 things I started with, which is what employees want, which is flexibility, compassion, and trust, care matters more than ever. And by listening and responding to our employees, organizations can see a 2.5x higher profit, 3x lower attrition, and 3x lower burnout.
Moving on, we have a panel discussion on upskilling and reskilling need of the hour.
Requesting the panel members to share one example which captures some of the people, process, and technology aspects of any upskilling or reskilling initiative that they've rolled out. So over to Prajakta. Hi, Prajakta.
I think the one that comes to my mind, which might be most relevant, is about how in L&D we've been marrying the L&D strategy to the business strategy very, very deliberately. So through our talent review process, what we do is we talk about what are the future capabilities that businesses are going to need to achieve their business strategy and what are the gaps that they are seeing. That becomes the primary inflow into our L&D strategy. So the L&D team, as a result, works on interventions that are going to help the business develop those future skills, right, that are required.
We move on to Alka.
We initiated a certification program at the beginning of this year as a pure upskilling exercise for our leaders who come with, again, a variety of mix of their prior GCC experience. The second phase of this entire exercise is where we are bringing condensed versions of the same skills for our associate population, something which gives them a complete holistic understanding of what ecosystem are they operating in, what is the North Star that the whole organization is focusing on, and what will essentially get us there. So that's what we're doing here.
So we'll move on to Jalidi, who is from automotive.
What we have seen typically is when every year you have a good number of youngsters stepping in, good number of our management trainees, graduate trainees, engineers who step in. They would really like to take control of the learning in their own hands, right? And it's always good to give them a platter. It's always good to give them that, hey, this is what the organization can provide you. We give them some tracks which they feel that, yes, this will be good in terms of not only my personal growth, but also in terms of my being more valuable to the organization. With this, then the choice is left to them.
So we move on to Sabin.
One of the things that we've experimented and is going very well is building these communities of practice. So people of similar interest within the organization, they're coming together and they're learning together, sharing, equipping each other, and then building awareness. And so these are opportunities where employees from very diverse background come together, join the community if that is of their interest, if that's the passion, that's the area that they want to build careers in. And then they work together, learn, and experience it. And if sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't like it, and they move from one community to the other.
So with that, it's end to today's session. Thanks everyone for taking time out, and thanks everyone in the audience for being with us.
Next up, we bring you a closing keynote address on looking ahead of leadership programs to leadership strategies by Tanvi Rohatgi of AB InBev.
We are dealing with a plethora of challenges. First, the great resignation across all industries. Second, the increasing commodity prices pressuring the bottom line. And third, replacing the vacancies with the right talent. In order to get ahead of these operational difficulties, companies need to be resilient and set up future-ready super teams of problem solvers. The virtual world has made our lives close as well as distant at the same time. Development of empathy and psychological safety is needed now like never before. When you don't see an employee in office or on a Zoom video, or the tendency to relate a poor virtual communication with performance, it can create a psychologically unsafe environment. So how do you overcome these biases? It requires a different skill to create a virtual relationship capital. So at AB InBev, we understand the need of this change, and we are doing these programs to drive awareness with managers as well as teams. Our agenda is to help employees with flexibility and create a team of extremely self-aware leaders who can tackle these unanticipated changes of future. Many times in organizations, top management, they don't trust frontline staff to make decisions, which leads to bureaucracy. And for this reason, we believe that we need to provide that empowerment to our frontline workers. So if our frontline workers in sales and supply, they need to make a decision, they have the digital data to make the decision, and more importantly, empowered to execute the decision. Even if the decision is not easy, they will have the problem-solving capability to solve it. The right balance between creation and curation of L&D content. Earlier, companies used to create the content internally. The need for new skills is so high that by the time companies in nowadays will craft the content and launch it, a new skill will be ready in the market. We are witnessing a time like never before. And I would say it's the best time to learn and experiment. Adaptability is a skill which has become more important, and organizations need to celebrate learning as culture. Thank you.